I spent just over a year living and working in Japan. And before I went, I felt like I had a pretty good idea of what to expect. I knew about the trains, food, some of the basic cultures, all the obvious stuff. But after actually spending a year there, I started to notice a lot of little things that I just wouldn't have thought about before going. So, looking back on my year in Japan, here are some of the things that I'd say genuinely surprised me. So, to start with, one that you might think, well, of course, everyone knows that about Japan, is the safety, but not only like the safety, but the trust in the safety. I think anyone who knows anything about Japan knows that it is a very safe country comparative to many other countries in the world. So it wasn't that was surprising. I wasn't surprised that I was walking around the streets feeling safe and I wasn't going to get robbed at any time. It's more the trust that everyone else has that the country is safe. Maybe a good example of what I mean by that was I was walking around Yoyogi Park, one of the main parks in Tokyo, and if you don't know, that's a huge park for running. There's always running clubs and people running around that park. Like I'd see them pull up, get their running shoes on, tie their laces, empty their pockets, put everything in the bag, put the bag on the bench, and then they just go off and run around the park for half an hour or something. Like, I think there's very few countries where there's not that worry of you're getting back from your run and being like, oh, my bag's just gone with my phone and my wallet and my keys and everything. Another example is when you go to, big busy cafe in the center of, I don't know, Shibuya. You'd see like people with their laptops, phones, bags. They just leave it all on the desk, like phone on the desk, laptop on the desk. I've seen people with like cameras, maybe they're editing their photography photos, just leave that all on the table and go off to the toilet, have a poop for like 20 minutes, come back and everything's just still there. Like, I knew it was safe. I knew Japan's is safe. You see the crime rates and of course they're low, but you wouldn't expect. It's not what I expected, and it's weird because I just couldn't really get used to it. Obviously, growing up in a completely different country, I've just grown accustomed to this. You don't do this. Don't leave your phone on the table. Like, someone's going to run over and snatch it. Don't leave your bag unattended in a public place for an hour. Like, so that's what I mean by the safety and the trust in the safety when I say that surprised me. So the second one, again on the theme of things that you might think are obvious, was, I'm going to call it the 24/7 everything. Like, I think anyone who has TikTok or something and scrolls stuff about Japan knows that people are like obsessed with convenience stores, like 7-Eleven, late night snacks and stuff like that. Everyone knows that the convenience stores there are, for the most part, always open. They're always 24/7. And I knew that going to Japan. I knew that was like a part of Japan. But I was shocked to find out it's not just convenience stores. It's, there's restaurants. Of course, there's cafes, net cafes, of course. You can check into various kinds of hotels at any time. A big one that I enjoyed, but it's not for everyone, was, of course, karaoke is open 24/7. It's definitely a lot of fun, would recommend. So yeah, very, very convenient. I feel like, for example, in the UK where I currently live, I'll be like starving and I'll think, I could go for like a little snack, right? Like walk to the shop and have a snack right now, but I look at the time, they're gonna be closed. But you just find yourself not even looking at the time when you're in Japan. It's just like, you just know you can go out and get that one random thing that you need. Wow, I need shaving cream. Well, it's 4 a.m. Let's go. Like, it's fine. For example, if you missed the last train and you're stuck some random place in Tokyo, you can just go chill at a cafe, or chill at a ramen shop, or of course, go to a net cafe or something. Like, there's always something open. Whereas I think if I'm in the middle of some normal UK city and it's like 2-3 a.m, I'm not really spoiled for choice of where I can go. I sort of have to get back to a hotel or to my house or apartment. So thirdly, kind of a weird one, but it didn't really affect me, but I just thought it was strange to observe, was you'd see very young children commuting by themselves. And if you don't know, Tokyo is the biggest city in the entire world. Some of these kids are going to be commuting quite far. You'd see them just walking through the street, waiting at the crossing of some busy intersection, or boarding rush hour train with the tiny little backpacks, and they think, oh, he must be 6-7 years old. Like, again, maybe that just goes into the trust in the safety of Japan, but I think that's just something, like, for example, again, relating it to the UK, if it was like busy rush hour in the morning and people saw a 6-year-old walking to school by themselves or on a busy train by themselves, I think people would be worried, and you'd have people coming over and checking, have you lost your parents, are you okay? So again, it's not something that affected my day-to-day life in any way, but it's just a strange observation, which again I think it is just a testament to the safety of Japan. Now, fourth is something that will affect you if you live or want to live in Japan, which is the lack of bins or trash cans, which is actually so annoying. I think maybe it's not a big deal for lots of people, but I found it quite frustrating. Every time I went out for the day and came back, it felt like the first thing was to just sort of empty my backpack like into the bin of like all the junk I've got throughout the day of like green tea or famichiki or whatever it is, just trash. A lot of convenience stores do have bins, but it's one of those where like you feel like you have to buy something you feel like if you walk in and just use the bin, it feels a bit rude, so then you have to buy something and then you've got some more trash, so it's kind of like a never-ending cycle. So that's something I'd be prepared to do, is just carry a day's worth of trash every time you go out. And I think naturally that moves on to another thing that shocked me, was the amount of plastic that Japan uses for everything. After doing some more research again, I did find out that Japan is not the best for plastic waste in the world. You will notice that quite quickly. If you do go to Japan, you'll see like individually wrapped bananas, and everything's just wrapped. Like, you buy a pack of little chocolates and it's in a bag, and then inside the bag each chocolate's individually wrapped. It's just packaging. So much plastic for everything. And of course, when there is the lack of bins, like I just said, you just got so much plastic and trash whenever you go out and buy anything. Next is another annoying one, which is paperwork. I'm pretty sure anyone who's lived there would agree. I guess if you're a tourist, it's not a big deal, because the maximum paperwork you have to do is filling in that little card when you land at the airport. But if you want to live there and you're getting bills and letters from the government, and you're signing up for visa renewals, all of that sort of stuff, the paperwork is just like a nightmare. I think the reason it is quite shocking, I guess, is because, of course, everyone knows Japan to be this super technologically advanced country, but it's just this paperwork it's just a nightmare. And the weird thing is of course, naturally it's difficult for me because my Japanese level is extremely low. So naturally I'm looking at these official government documents with thousands of boxes of where you need to sign and fill out different information. Of course, that's going to be a challenge, and that's on me. I live in Japan, and if I don't speak Japanese, that's going to come with issues. But often I'd ask my Japanese friends or something for help, and in some cases they'd be like, this is not much easier for me. Just the amount of pages that they give you, of half of it's not even necessary. And also the kanji that they use at this high sort of government documents, business level kanji, lots of people can't even read them. So it doesn't even necessarily mean it's just for foreigners who can't speak Japanese. I think a good example was, I had this tax claim or something. I think I paid too much tax in Japan, so I could claim a little bit back. And the document was like 15 pages or something. And turns out, like, after having a Japanese person look for it, it's like, oh, I only needed to sign on like two places on like the 14th page. It's just like it take you hours and hours to try figure that out by Google translating the pages or whatever. And then I had to individually like seal this back up and post it. And I think for comparison, I had the exact same situation in the UK where I paid a bit too much tax and the government owed me some tax. And this actually happened while I was in Japan, because I think I paid a bit of tax to the UK government while I wasn't even living there. So I could claim that back. And I remember it was just a quick online form that I had to fill out, and it took me, I think, maybe 5 minutes. I did it on the train commute to work, and then that was it. And then literally half an hour later, the money landed in my bank account. Whereas also for the Japan one, I had to wait. I think it was about like, it was definitely over a month for it to land in my bank account. A nice way to put it is to say it's a lot more in depth, but I think the pessimistic way is, it seems quite unnecessary and very laborious. I don't know. It's not very efficient. And I think with how good they are in all other aspects of technology and being efficient, it's kind of ironic, I guess. Next, kind of a more like, I don't know, we'll say it's a funny one, but I think I'm not the only person that's noticed this. I can't be, but maybe it is just me, but of course there's many good qualities about Japanese people, but one that always seemed to piss me off, I think it's because it's naturally a pet peeve of mine regardless of who does it to me, is just a lack of spatial awareness. I think if you go, you'll understand. You'll be following someone in the street, they'll be walking, and then randomly they'll just stop, and you're like whoa, like no like check of the shoulder or like moving out the way and stopping or going, like just stop. Or like they'll be walking, you'll be like walking in a busy station, someone will be walking that way, and then suddenly they change direction, walk straight into you. And people like walking in the street, so like on their phones, it's like I feel like I need to keep an eye on them just to like protect them. I'm sure that's not just me, but it's something I definitely notice. It's way more than any other place I've been to. It can't just be a coincidence the amount I noticed it. So if you're Japanese and you're watching, please just watch where you're going. I'm just playing around, but like, watch out. I feel like some of those last ones seemed quite negative. Of course, naturally, I think some of the things that shock you are maybe going to be a bit more on the negative side, but of course I'm not taking that away from Japan. There's extremely like high amount of things that are great. A lot of them I already knew about, which is why they didn't shock me. But maybe on one that's maybe a good thing that to shock me, at least if you're maybe more of a someone who likes their personal space and not super outgoing or social, there really is not much need for human interaction in Japan. And what I mean by that is, going back on how Japan is technologically advanced, so many like restaurants have like these little iPads where you just order, everything comes to your table. There's like pretty much no human interaction, literally no human interaction in some restaurants when a little robot cart arrives and drops you off your food. You know, you'll go to a ramen shop and you just order at the vending machine at the door and then just hand the ticket to the waiter. Even lots of, for example, like net cafes that I've had to go to, you just sign up on a little like screen, gives you a key card and you go. Even drinking culture, I'd say, like when I went out drinking, I noticed a salaryman sat in the corner just drinking quietly to himself. And I feel like drinking and going out eating food is two things that we in the UK probably associate quite heavily with, you know, being social. And in Japan, while they obviously can be, it's also completely normal to go do those things completely by yourself and not want any human interaction, which I actually think is quite nice, because if you want to feel that sort of social vibe, you still can. There's still like really busy restaurants where there isn't all of these robots and you do have to order from someone, or busy drinking places where you can speak to random people. But it's nice to know that you have the option to do those things by yourself. And that's something that sort of surprised me in a good way. And lastly, one that I noticed was the, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but you can play the foreigner card and kind of get a pass on some of the more strict Japanese sort of cultures and ways of acting. Maybe a good example was at the school I worked at, the English school. Of course, they did have Japanese staff there as well, who were pretty much on the same sort of level as me, at least in the company. But I noticed when the company boss came in, the Japanese staff was so formal to him, and there was such like a structured way that they communicated. And then with the boss with the rest of us was completely like chill. It was completely sort of more like a Western style company where it's like, oh, you had a good weekend, yeah, I did this, how about you? Whereas it was clearly, oh, he's clearly the boss, they're clearly below him. And that's something that we never really, even though that's a culture I did do a little bit of research about before going, it's just something I didn't feel like sucked into at all. I do think that's just because being a foreigner, like the Japanese people know how many different cultural sort of standards they have, and I think they know that it's unlikely that all foreigners will be accustomed to these customs, especially if you've only been there for like a year like I had. But yeah, I do think if you wanted to live in Japan for a really long time, of course, it's best to learn about all of these, or as many as you can, and of course best to follow them, or try your best to follow them. I think I did okay for only being there for a fairly short time, but it is nice having that card in the back pocket. I feel like if I was a long-term resident of Japan, say I've been there 10 years and I accidentally spoke too loud on the subway or something like that, or did something in my company which was maybe not completely correct, it's nice that you could probably have that in your back pocket, locked and loaded, like, oh, sorry, I'm just a gaijin, I don't know any better. Maybe not the best way to look at it, but it's a nice little sort of cop out if you make a small mistake. So yeah, I'd say those are the sort of main points that caught me off guard a little bit. Before wrapping this up, I do want to sort of obviously reiterate that I did only live there for a year. I have been back since, and I am going back in about a month. So that'd be cool. But yeah, I'm not an expert on Japan. I'm not claiming to be. There are people on YouTube, foreigners who have lived in Japan 10, 20, 30 years. They're great to ask for or get a deeper insight. These are just, this sort of short-term trip to Japan. Like, these are just things I noticed. It's just kind of like we'll call it story time. It's not, this is not advice or anything like that. But yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything on my experience, how I got there, anything, happy to answer anything. And thanks for making it this far, I guess. Cheers, bye.